Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of the Oriire podcast, the podcast that tells African stories. I'm Haleemah.
And I'm Sesi, and today we're here with Mamokone, and we're going to be talking about South African foods. Connie is here with us. She's from South Africa. I'm going to let her speak for herself. Hi, Connie.
Hi, Sesi. Hi, Haleemah. I'm Connie, Mamokone from South Africa. It's nice to be here.
Nice to have you.
Have you as well. Mamokone, you speak Soto, African, and what language again?
I speak Xhosa, Lesotho, and I can hear African.
Oh, okay, cool. So how do you say hi in your language, like in any of these languages?
In Sesotho, you say Dumela.
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 Oh, okay. In Xhosa, you say what?
In Xhosa, you say Molo or Molweni.
Molweni. Okay, and in Afrikaans, how do you say hello?
Oh, Jesus, just say hello.
Well then, hello. Nice to
hello. Normally they greet according to the time. So it's either good morning, good evening, good day.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So in Xhosa and Sotho, it doesn't have time. You just say at any time you say Molo or you say Dumela.
Cool. Nice. Yeah. Molo and Dumela. Got it. Anyway, so what is your favorite South African food? I think let's start from there.
My favorite. Yeah. My favorite is tripe. I love tripe. It's the large intestines, the small intestines, just the inside of the cow or goat. You chop it, you cook it, or you clean it first, obviously, and then you cook it. Oh, it's nice.
That's something we eat a lot, yeah, in Nigeria as well. So it's a common denominator.
Oh, that's
cool. I guess most of us we eat it.
Yeah, I think so. But weird enough, I don't like animal intestines. I don't like it. I don't like seeing it in food. I don't like eating it. It's just I just don't understand it.
Are you serious? That's usually the best parts.
The only thing I like is shaki, and I feel like shaki is tripe, but the other part, the circle,
the roundabout,
that circle one. Why is it round? That's my first question. But that's another discussion for another day. So what are like the top 5 food you would say that you guys eat in South Africa?
Top 5, it depends on the tribes, but for Xhosa people, the top 5, let's start with umphokoqo. Okay, umphokoqo is I've heard Kenyans said ugali. It's the soft porridge, right? But you're not eating it with your usual, maybe let's say tripe or anything, but it's the soft porridge that you eat with milk. So you have to cook it in a very different way, you know. So it's umphokoqo, and then you have afal intloko, which is the head of the goat. And then you also have maotwana, which are chicken feet. And you have umngqusho, which is your sam and what? Yeah, those are the ones. How many did I Oh, there's also why am I forgetting it? I'll remember it. But it is the worms that are eaten by other tribes in South Africa. Apparently they say they're nice, but I've never ate them.
So where you're from, what part of South Africa is that?
Okay, I'm in Free State in Bloemfontein, and then Bloemfontein is dominated by Sotho speaking people, but I speak Xhosa. My mother is Sotho, but I speak Xhosa in Bloemfontein.
Yeah. Bloemfontein.
Yeah, boy.
So all these things that you've mentioned sound really interesting, like the head of the goat. I think that there are tribes, because there are a lot of common denominators within like African food, really, and like how we eat them. Because I know West African tribes as well. There are some that eat goat heads. I think like it's an Igbo thing, right, with Nkwobi. Yeah. So how do you guys eat your goat head? Is it like boiled and like stewed, or is it fried, or is it?
They cook it, pour it in this, and they spice it too, guys. Yo, they overcook it, which is the most. That's what I like about it, actually. But I don't eat that much. They overcook it in water. They add on. They don't even add actually spices. They just put on the salt. The inside part is the one. So yeah, that's basically how they cook it. Oh, and then you can eat it with dumpling, which is bread that is made out of water, boiling water. Yeah. So normally how they normally cook that bread is others they prefer to put it in a plastic. You put your dough in a plastic and then you have a huge pot. You pour it, you put your plastic in the pot, and then as it boils, the bread overcooks, and then it's okay. So that's what they normally eat the head with.
Yeah, that's so cool. The dumpling you guys eat in South Africa, is it the same kind of dumpling they eat in Botswana? Because I've had that one and it's nice. I have this friend that's from Botswana, and yeah, that dumplings are really nice. Well, the South African kind, if it's the same as the Botswana one, then they're really nice. You guys should try it. It's the same thing, right?
Yes, it is. It is
Oh,
the same
cool.
thing.
That's
Mhm.
really I feel like everyone should know this. If you don't know this, go and read history books. But South Africa was also colonized, and their struggle to be freed from the white people was unfortunately very brutal. But of course, like the influences from like European, German, and like all the countries that colonized South Africa, basically. So what foods do you guys still eat that was like brought down or like imposed on you guys by the British or the Germans or whatnot? I know you guys have meat pies, right? Like pastries
We
and
have
stuff.
what? Yes, we do.
Like baked goods, like pastries and whatnot. Is that something that the white people brought with them to South Africa, or is that something you guys used to eat like much before colonialism or
I
colonization?
think I believe maybe they modified what we had,
Mhm.
because I believe that we used to bake like there's a bread that we call rostil. You don't put it in an oven or anything, you just bake it in a different way. But I just think they modified everything, and we just had some of the things that they came with, and then they became, can I say, better or more modified. But I guess it's good to actually be able to go back and say, this is how I prefer it, as much as there are other options, or yeah, other new options that are introduced to us. So I believe so, yeah, they did introduce some of the things, but I also believe we've always baked, but in a different way.
Oh, that's really cool. So what sort of baked foods do you guys have, or like pastries do you have? I know there's meat pie. You said rotis now, right?
Yeah, I know
Roasted.
one called Cook Sisters, the like a donut or something. Yeah. I think I've had that before and it was delicious. I don't know if
Then
I pronounced that right, probably horribly.
No, you pronounced it very well. Cook sisters. Yeah, it is that one. And then others. Oh, I was talking about the initial way of us baking, which is orostilo, whereby you have your dough,
Mhm.
but now it is as if it is you have your dough and then you put it on your flour, and then we used to have a primer stove where you'll just put a surf. Is it a surf? Okay, where you put it, you put your dough on top of it, So that's how we actually baked without having stoves. But I can actually say other things like the pastries and everything that were introduced to us. We also bake bread. I think we all do that. But
Yeah,
I can't say we baked a lot, you know.
yeah, makes sense.
Mm-mm.
I just wanted to say, I always think it's kind of interesting when you have to consider the effect like time and history basically has on food, which is kind of one of the reasons that I thought food was a good subject for Oriire to focus on, because especially when it comes to Africa, there's so much has happened in Africa, like colonialism. In the case of South Africa, we've had apartheid, we've had the diaspora back and forth. And when you consider the effect that has had on like what we eat, for example, I think when I was, I think that there's some crops that when the Dutch came to South Africa, they probably brought with them and then they stayed. So things like potatoes or pumpkins or cucumbers were not always like, a local South African crop, and then became so because they planted them and then they stayed. Do you think that that's true?
I don't believe so.
You don't? Oh, interesting.
I don't. No, I don't believe so. For me, I just believe we had everything. It's just a matter of not knowing, and the exposure, or just not knowing that you have, like, most places that have diamonds, they know they have it, but they don't know how to use it. Because I believe South Africans, Africans, we planted before. They just found a better way of doing what we are doing, and also maybe using what we have to their advantage. But I believe we all had what we are having. It's just a matter of not knowing how to use it or make it work for you, yeah.
I actually think that's an excellent perspective that you have. And, you might be right. You're probably right. Because when you consider how history is told, it's usually like they wrote the history for us, because they documented it first. So why wouldn't they say that they're the ones who brought this and that? It's very likely that it was already there. That's actually a very, very valid perspective as well.
Yeah, I agree. Yep. So are there like any foods that are prepared specifically for weddings, for example, or for any other occasions?
Okay, the truth is, normally during weddings, they try to be fancy. Most weddings, they try to be fancy, but in family gatherings or ceremonies, that's where actually people get traditional, they that's where they actually cook your spinach, they cook the head, they cook the tripe, because they'll be having the slaughtering of all the animals, the actual animals that will be slaughtered at that point. But during the weddings, they just have your normal Sunday dish. They're trying something new, they're exploring. It's not a normal menu where you can say this is African or what, but it's just something that is fancy, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just how they prefer it. But we go traditional when we in traditional ceremonies. But one thing that is mandated about Xhosa people, they cannot do without umhluzi. Umhluzi is the it's the when you cook your chicken or your meat, the water that comes with flavor, if you don't have the sauce, it's just not it. So we prefer our food with a lot of the sauce, nothing dry.
Oh, that's cool. That sounds like chicken stock and beef stock, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say that's another common denominator as well, because in West Africa, like, people use chicken stock. So whenever you boil your meat, the water, they use it to cook like lots of other different things.
Yeah.
I want to mention the South African food, which I believe like I've heard about the most. So I think it might be like the most popular, South African food item, biltong. Tell us about it.
Yes, it is. Okay, normally you can actually make your own biltong in South Africa. You don't have to buy it, especially if you have a meat whereby you will take your meat, put on the spices, and hang it, Normally others, they will hang it outside just so that they dry, others in a cool space or room temperature where they can just have it dried out, and then they enjoy it. So that's the biltong. And it differs with flavors. Others, they also do it from, do you guys call it sausage? We call it wors this side. They also do it from that. So, yeah.
So biltong is basically like dried seasoned meat, right? So it's like dried over a few days, and like they dry it. Traditionally, it's air dried, I think, right? So they dry it with the air, and then it tastes delicious, apparently. It's very similar, from what I've been told, to kilishi, which is a northern Nigerian dish. So what would you say is the easiest food to make? Like of all the South African food, maybe that we talked about or that you know of, what's the easiest one to make?
Okay, because we always use maize meal, I would say umpoko because you just cook it in a, okay, it's not the normal soft porridge, like I said. So you just make your or how you make it. Normally, I don't know how other people make the soft porridge, but the one umpokoko, you just pour more maize meal than water. But just make sure that you don't have too much. And then you don't use the normal spoon. You need a thinner spoon so that your soft porridge is not solid, you know. It's like you're having pieces of them around. Then you can have that with your milk. And then the other one, oh, the spinach, we all eat spinach. Yeah, but mostly I would prefer that.
So that's the one
There's
that's
not
similar
much.
to ugali, right? Like the Ugandan ugali.
Yes.
Okay, so based on what I kind of think, it's like making, so it's similar to like pounded yam, except instead of yam, they use maize flour and water, and then it forms like a ball, right? And then they eat that with spinach. So it's basically like the stew and what's the Nigerian word for okili?
But you know, the South African one, right? If it's similar to the Botswana one again, then it's not like pounded yam. It forms into swallow, but it is not as hard as pounded yam. Do you
So
get?
it's softer.
Yeah. And then the way they eat it, right? It's more like, yeah, you're very correct. It's very similar to like swallow and soup, right? But it's also somewhat different in a way, if that makes sense. So I don't think we should compare to pounded yam because they're kind of different.
That's true. That's true. So would you say that there are any like what would I call it? Like a national drink, like a very common drink, maybe that you make, like South Africans make, or that they buy really that to eat mostly with the food, not water, of course, but something more interesting.
All right. We have ginger beer, but you can decide if you want to make it a beer or you just want to have it as the ginger, you know. So hey, yeah. So we have that. We have umqombothi. Umqombothi is the one that they normally drink during what's this ceremonies, you know. So that's the most common one. But when you want to have a drink, you can have a ginger. Then if you want to turn it into alcohol, then you pour some yeast into it. If you just want to have a normal drink, then you don't pour yeast in it.
You put the yeast in it yourself, like not like you pour beer into it.
Homemade. You pour yeast. When yeast serves as a percent of alcohol. Yeah. So if you pour yeast, it's no more just a drink, it's alcohol. So others have other drinks which they sell. I've seen bread, I've seen pineapple, I've seen a lot. So you wouldn't want to have that. Yeah.
Wait, so like actual yeast that they use for like baking stuff has alcohol in it?
Not that one. There's a
Oh,
specific yeast that is used for alcohol.
oh, okay. Got it. Because I'm like, what? Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So the final question that we have for you, Connie, is have you tried any food from any other African country? Or is there any food from any African country you want to try? I think you should try jollof rice, Nigerian jollof rice to be specific.
Yes. Are you backing any horse in the jollof rice war?
Yeah.
I haven't tried any and I haven't tried any. I think maybe that's because I'm just seeing people eating food differently, and it's a good thing, but I think it's a challenge to me. But I haven't tried any, and honestly, I haven't even tried to want to find out what do other people eat? Because with me, I've seen people eating the same thing that I eat, but in just a different way. You know, the two dishes, you have your ugali at this side, you have whatsoever that you're going to eat on the other side. So that's basically that. But I've seen people eating what I mostly eat. But from here, I think I'll just try to have more exposure and see what do people eat differently from what I'm eating.
Yeah, I think that's something you should take from this podcast. Maybe try food from other countries. Yeah, you might find something you like. So I think you should try Nigerian jollof rice first, Sha. Try Nigerian jollof first. And then after Nigerian jollof, try Ghana jollof next. But yeah. Anyway, this was nice. Yeah. Do you have anything you want to add, or any food you want everyone to try, or anything you want to say, really?
Oh, okay. No, I'm just humbled that I met you guys. And I'm happy that I was here. And no, people should they should try the same with the tribe if they haven't. With the ginger, with no yeast. Yeah, that'll be definitely fine.
Thanks so much for coming. We really appreciate it. And we have loved having you here and having this conversation about South African foods, which we didn't really know much about. So this was enlightening.
Yep. So as usual, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, stay notified. Follow us on all our social media platforms. We're there at Oriire_Africa. And Oriire is spelled ORIIRE_Africa. And what else?
And don't forget to visit our website, oriire.com, and start a conversation. Let's talk about African food. You tell us your perspective on food from your tribe. And also, if you would like to come on our podcast to talk about any topic related to African mythology, African history, or African food, we would love to have you. You can contact us through the contact us page on our website, and we'll arrange a date. Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thanks.
Bye.
Dumela.
Thank you.
I know Dumela means welcome, but I don't know what bye means. What's bye, please? What's bye in all the languages you speak?
Okay. You can just say when you say bye, Utsamaye hantle.
Could you say that again?
Utsamaye hantle.
Oh wow. Dumela again.
Dumela.